Hello again, and we're here back at the class for English as a conversation dialogue. And we've been talking about differences in terms of formal and informal dialogues. Last class, we talked about speaking to the telephone, and that was one of the important ones, but also giving and asking for directions. And in terms of speaking through the telephone or through the phone, we have to go back and think a little more about the possibilities that we can experience, not just as a friendly conversation in terms of calling a friend or a family member, but we also need to consider speaking with someone in a company that you work with, and also to talk or speak with some potential clients, some stakeholders, some people that is related to your company. Somehow you're going to end up talking through the phone in your near future. And that's one of the exercises that we're going to consider, but almost like at the end of the class, because I put it in a list of the references for this class, for today's class. And so we're gonna start sharing some visual aids as usual. I hope that it doesn't get bored because we just kept doing this. But it's just a lot of help when we have the visual aid, just because you can see a little more over here. But these slides actually are a little different from the rest that we had in the semester. Why is that? Well, because today is almost about pictures and not much about written material. It's visual material, but in terms of trying to connect the brain or the vocabulary that we already stuck in our brains and trying to apply it here. So I'm going to be collecting your participation. Yes, you heard it right. You are going to be participating today in terms of the vocabulary and trying to go back to that conversation part as a dialogue. We're going to end up talking about those dialogues. And like I said, we're going to finish this going through some references. And those references are going to help us understand or at least practice a little more. One of them is about well, all of those dialogues are short dialogues, but one of them, the one that we're going to cover here, we're going to be listening to it and we're going to try to practice through repeating on it. So, but since I said that first, we're going to look at some pictures to refresh our minds into the terms of vocabulary, and especially vocabulary for industrial engineers. So let's go and try to see what it's here. So first picture that we have here is about what? Some basic tools. Basic tools to work, whatever. Actually, you can have these basic tools at home. You can have them at a shop. You can have them at, or like when I said a shop, it's like the one that we have over there at school, like the one with Professor Heriberto. You can have these tools almost everywhere. These tools are especially for maintenance, right? So I would like to see if you guys know about the names for this one and how we can use them into a conversation. Anyone? If you don't know, it's about time that you can use your technology. Go ahead and take your dictionaries at your phones and just click on any of the applications that you have there that is about a dictionary, or you can just go and Google it and try to find the actual word for them. And then we can talk about how can we use them in a conversation. But of course, it has to go in English. That's what I'm saying. Go ahead and look it up on your English dictionaries, not just any dictionary. Yeah? Anyone?
Is there any tweezers?
Is there any? Oh, okay.
Tweezers.
Tweezers, yes. I went ahead and I started showing you some other things. Tweezers. Yeah, we could be talking about these ones here. One of the names could be that. There is double Z. Let me know if I wrote it correctly.
Yeah, it's written correctly.
Thank you. And I was writing a lot. It's an I. And well, okay, let me tell you the main or general word for all of these ones. This guy over here, this guy over here, this guy over here, and probably this one's here too, is pliers. Some pliers. We call them in Spanish, of course, the pinzas, right? The pliers. But okay, no, this one is a different word. But then what is the word for these guys here? This guy and this guy here. Yeah, go ahead and use some internet and look for something there.
I think that is wrench or work.
A wrench. Yes.
I know that one of them is a screwdriver.
Oh, and there's another guy that is hidden in between. This guy over here is the screwdriver. Oh, I put black on top of black. Well, I still can see it. I don't know if you guys can see it over there. Screwdriver. Okay.
There is a ratch.
A ratch. Is it with W? Does it start with W?
No, it's with the R-A-C-H-E, ratch. It's the one in, it's on the right. It's the last one. It's silver only.
That one or this one?
No, it's on the upper corner.
Ah, that's true. I didn't. That's true. Here, yes, there's a ratch. Yeah, which is different from the other ones. Cool, correct. Okay, so now that we have found about like the general names for them, how do you think we can apply these tools into a dialogue, into a conversation? Let's go back a little bit. Let's take 2 steps.
Maybe an indication.
Okay, maybe it is about to give directions on something, right? In terms of some procedure, to follow some procedure. Okay. Okay, that's good.
Maybe for a mechanic shop.
Okay, so a big, this is gonna go all the way to the whole day at a mechanic shop. Mechanic shop. Good. Un taller mecánico. Okay, good. That's why we're using this word here, the shop. That's the general word that we use for any type of shop, any type of taller. But then if you want to emphasize the type of shop, then you have to keep the name at the beginning. Good. So also, if we have a maintenance department at our companies, we definitely have to use this type of tools. Don't you think? The people that works in maintenance, not just mechanics, but mainly mechanics, but not just them. You also have the people with the title of supervisors or the boss. They will have to know the names of these tools. How do you ask or how do you use this? Maybe you can talk about questions and answers. Yes, about asking some questions about, hey, okay, it's about time that we go and fix machine number 662. Then you have to make sure that you take these pliers with you, the pliers and number 4 and 6, and then make sure that you take your wrench, your 2 inches wrench with you also, because you're gonna need it. Oh, okay, thanks for reminding me. I'm gonna go and check it on my list, and then I'm gonna go and ask to get a new one, because I think that I lost my wrench when I was fixing the machine 661, and then to not go back and check it over there at with machine 661, I'm just gonna go and take a new one. So you think you can ask for new tools every time that you're gonna go and fix another one? I don't think so. Go and take your tools back. That's a conversation that can happen very frequently at companies with maintenance. I don't know why, but this is something that happens every day and in every company. When you don't have good planning and when you don't follow good planning, tools tend to get lost. Everyone takes the tools, and then when you actually need the tools, that's something that takes your work behind. You can't do the maintenance because you don't have tools. And then you have to go around and look for your tools, and you don't know where those tools are. But that's because of bad management of the inventory of your tools. And that's something I'm telling you, that's true. Out of experience from all of the people that I've known that have been doing some work in maintenance, there's always this problem. But that's because we don't organize ourselves. And those type of dialogues are so frequent. Every time a mechanic goes and tries to fix a machine, given some basically corrective maintenance, and it takes longer, it takes more time to do the maintenance because they don't know where the tools are. That shouldn't happen. But that is fixed when we plan ahead and when we keep organized. And of course, one of the cutest and nicest techniques that industrial engineers have is the 5S technique. But you need to combine it with some of the techniques or methods that are referred to maintenance. Good thing and good point is that I believe that next semester, one of your courses is about maintenance, one of your classes. Normally that class is taught by Professor Ruggiero, and I think it's coming on next semester because I don't believe that you're taking it this semester. So yeah, I believe it's on the 8th one, just before you leave school. Okay, so yeah, there's gonna be a lot of dialogues about that.
Actually, we're taking the course right now.
Oh, you're taking the course. Oh, that's good. So yeah, you're almost finished with that one, Sarai, but it's really important. At least one of you, but I'm saying this out of the blue. I think that it's going to be more than one. But at least one of you from this group is going to end up doing at least the internship, and some of you are going to end up working as your first job as an industrial engineer, doing some work in maintenance. And let me tell you this, it's not that you're going to be the mechanic, you shouldn't be. You should learn a lot about those machines that you're gonna be in charge of, but your work is more about understanding what is needed in that company. And referring to that, it's more about the preventive maintenance, right? Predictive and preventive. Predict and prevent, those two, because to correct is more expensive. And those things that you have learned over this semester in that course are super important. If you didn't pay enough attention, there's 2 more weeks of the semester, and what I would recommend is not just pay attention to it. Make sure to know about those references in your descriptive letter of the class. There should be references. Take a look at those. Take some time to read about those and investigate a little more, because definitely you're going to end up working with some of that in your near future. When I say in your near future, I'm referring that it's coming on in the next few months. Like I said on our last class on Tuesday, I mentioned this, and I'm gonna keep mentioning next semester, but it's about in March when you are start securing a place for your internship. So it's less than 4 months. It's about like 3 months, because we only have to count December, January, and February. But you're gonna be ready for that. Yeah. Okay, so we've been talking about machines. And in terms of machines, there's a lot to know about machines, of course. But can we have dialogues about machines, our actual jobs, our professional lives? And the answer is yes, of course. There is another course that you're taking right now. And it's also with Professor Ruggiero. What's the name of that course? What? There was someone participating, but she fucked up. So come back.
Automation.
Automation or well,
Automation.
yes, automation. Yes.
Automation.
Exactly. And then that's one of the most important courses right now that in terms of the Industrial Revolution 4.0, because everything should go or is on that way on being automated. And also there is people that have started talking about also the Industrial Revolution 5.0. So right now we're supposed to be on the 4.0, when yes, it's basically automation, and also everything that is full about the Internet of Things. Yeah, because we talk about managing everything from a distance, right? And so nowadays, that's why it's the internet is basic to work anywhere. And I don't really know and understand about the 5.0, but I think it's related to the fastest way that you can do it. Now that we talk about 5G and of course the Li-Fi, not just Wi-Fi, but Li-Fi, which is the light, the speed of light, and so on. And but yeah, I'm being honest with you. This is something like it's fairly new, and there's not many articles that talk about that one. But yeah, there it is. But yeah, machines. Do we have conversations about machines? Of course, ever since you started your, at least your school over here at Universidad de la Sierra. So, do we need to learn about the terms, the vocabulary for machines? The answer is yes. I wouldn't push you, and this is why I'm not putting all of the list of the vocabulary right now, because I'm not pushing you just now, like today or this week or next week. No, I'm not gonna push you to learn all of this just in one day. What I'm advising you here is to start reading and to start looking for information related to this, related to maintenance, to machinery, to tools, and to more, because we have more slides that I'm gonna show you. But the main objective or purpose for today's class is to let you know that your future is coming and there's more vocabulary needed. And in this term, there's a lot of this vocabulary that even if you speak just Spanish, when you're working, this vocabulary is just the English words. Sometimes with the accent or with even the stress as if it was a Spanish word. But no, it's not a Spanish word. There's some more slides, but I'm gonna start talking about this one. For example, in manufacturing, they talk about the fixture, and in some companies they made it like I said, with the stress and the intonation as Spanish, and they said fixtura, just because they just made another word. But the main words are all of them in English. And so that's vocabulary that you're going to be learning once you start working. You're going to be immersed into that. And without noticing it, you are going to be using even more English than you ever imagined. Even if you are speaking in Spanish, that's going to be a huge mix. Because let me tell you and remind you again, we're talking about conversation here. And remember that there are 4 ways going on right now in this globalized world in terms of industry 4.0 that we talk about communicating verbally, writtenly, technologically, and in English. So you just need, well, you better remember that. So over here you have different machines, of course, these ones with these huge big arms that are here in the middle. They're mainly robotic, and of course they are automated. These ones over here are probably not automated, of course not. We have the press here, and those big press, they are manually driven, whereas the ones in the picture of the middle and the picture on the right are basically programmed or controlled by programming. They have been programmed to work in some ways, and that's why we call them, or they come from the robotics, right? Vendor machines, the ones that we have on the right, vendor or vending machines, they have a different purpose, of course. They are not for building, like these ones here and these ones here, but they are to expand. And another word or synonym is expanding machines. They're just for selling, but very interesting machines because they have to manage money. They have to understand the difference on paper and coins, size and colors and all of that. And also some better machines, they also just read the credit cards, and some very new ones, I think they just read from your phones. There is a code or an application that you can just put your phone next to it, and they're going to read it, and they're going to give you what you want through that. Pretty cool, huh? Well, that's the world that we live now. And again, I keep saying this because we have been living in a globalized world. Just one. The control room, oh my goodness, this is super important in every company. Mainly because of what I said before. We just mentioned that everything goes automated. So we have to have a control room where we can see, yes, the buttons. This is kind of like an old control room, but you can still find those in different companies. But you have monitors, screens, so you can check what's going on. And also you can find these control rooms that are slightly different. These are for broadcasting on TV broadcasting. But in terms of basically speaking, it's about the same. It's a room that you can have so many different screens, and you can monitor what's happening through the company. Very good, isn't it? I don't know if in those visits to industry that you had in the past, that you had before, if you ever had the chance to visit some control rooms.
Yes.
Okay, yes, we did. Good. Well, okay, we don't need to mention the names of the companies, but if you want.
In Calidad.
Oh, good, good. Oh, you had the chance to go there.
Yeah, when I was like in third semester, I think.
Ah, but you were with
Arellano.
the other group.
Yes.
You had bigger chances. Oh,
Yes,
I'm
I
just,
even went to the vortex.
yeah. I'm just remembering that we had more chances, more opportunities with the other group because your current group went through pandemics, and it's been a long time now. Oh, if you remember, I don't know, were you there? Yes, you were there with that group when we had our final trip, right? The final trip to Hermosillo. Were you still at the same group or?
No, the last trip I went with my last group was actually with you, Professor. We went to Agua Prieta and Cananea. That was
Yes.
my last trip with them.
Oh, that was also another control room over there when we went
Yeah.
at the mine. Yes,
Buena
at the
Vista.
mine pit. Yes. Good, good. Yeah, that's true. Thanks, Anael. Oh, those are sad times. Those were super good times. But we miss them a lot because you can finally see it working. When you go and see it, it's so impressive to see it in a mine because you don't normally look at yourself working in a control room, for example. But in a control room for a mine, there's a lot of use for those classes that you have taken with Professor Jasmine. The one that you're taking right now and that you're using a lot of Excel, that's one of the main classes that you use in those control rooms because you do have to use all of those calculations. And you can actually see them. And that's why we used to love all of those trips. And we hope for it to be back for the day that we can go back and visit. Still it's unsafe, and because we have to put our health first. If we're healthy, we can start life again. But if we are not healthy, then we die, and then there's no more life. So we have to understand these difficult times. But yes, going back to that, every company, every company that has some process, they do have to have a control room. And when I said that, there's also a control room for hospitals. And then you're gonna say like, hey, come on, you're telling me that every company that have a process, there are processes in a hospital. Hospitals have to have fluids that are super important for health. Fluids like oxygen. They have to have electricity in their surgery rooms. They have to have water running all through the building. They have to have a heating system through the building. And all of that needs to be controlled. They need to have a control room. Very interesting. Even the hospital in Moctezuma needs to have a control room. So I'm telling you, control rooms are everywhere. In the university, do we have control rooms? Of course. This is for a place like the university, it's mainly for the TICs, for the telematic part, to control the network. But we do have control rooms. It's there is not in every building, but in our building, in engineering, there is one next to the next computer lab. No, it's on top of the computer lab. It's next to the biology lab. And there's the main one that we have at the main building where engineer Enrique, where engineer Enrique is working. It's next to the tourism lab where Professor Marco Medina is. So there is the main control room that we have. And we also have a big one, a big site. It's called the site, and it's the building for the computer systems engineering, where Professor Aldo's office is. Behind his office, there's a big site also over there, and so on. So there's control rooms everywhere. Of course, it depends on the type of company or depends on type of the organization. But there's always going to be a control room. Yes. And do we have conversations going on in a control room? Of course. And of course, those conversations have to be related to what you can see on the screens. Take a look at the variables that you have to be measuring and following, the parameters, some parameters and variables that you need unchecked and that are basic for running that organization. So yes. But we have more. Management. When we talk about management, we have to talk about quality, of course. And since your last name as industrial engineers is in productivity and quality, you guys need to talk a lot about quality. It's not just about the quality of a product, which, yes, I did include it for quality control. I decided to include this picture over here and to talk about inspection work or rework. But it's not just about that. Quality, and in terms of quality management, there's a lot to talk about. We just had a meeting about like 2-3 weeks ago, almost like it's gonna be like 3 weeks, with one of the engineers based in quality management in the mine in Nacosari. And he was telling us he's trying to push the university to do more in terms of that, in terms of quality management. And the main idea is because there is not many graduates that know about this. And in those terms, I was like, oh, well, yeah, but we adapted, thanks for what the industry said, we adapted in one of our majors in our school, in our department, in the industrial engineering department, is quality management system. And that's what they are in need in that area, in that department in the company. Because quality management systems run all of the process through the companies. Of course, one of the other ways that we decided to include was logistics, and we're going to talk about logistics too. But over here right now, we're talking about quality. And in terms of quality management systems, we talk a lot about processes. We talk about our documents, how to document things, how to have procedures and how to follow procedures, how to use different types of formats, how to design formats, how to follow those formats. And then, of course, everything ends up with getting certified and keeping that certification going on. And then if we go about certifying, we keep internationally. And speaking of internationality, then we talk about the ISO. And then we talk about the ISO 9001. And of course, we talk about the ISO 14001 with its version of 2015. And of course, we talk about ISO 45001. Just as a reminder, this is about quality, this is about the environment, and this is about health and safety. And depending on the types of companies, we can talk about a little more of that. But everything goes back to quality. And again, I keep on telling you, one of your last names, because you are an industrial engineer, but you're industrial engineers in productivity and quality. And again, I'm telling you again, quality is not just about talking of specifications of a product. It's even more. It's quality in every step of the job. It's quality of people, compromising, committed, being committed to their jobs. It's about talking about fulfilling productivity, increasing the productivity. It's about getting the goals for the organization, for the year, for every 6 months, for every 3 months. So it's about planning and it's about operating the company, the organization. So there's a lot that we have to talk about that. And of course, the best references are in English. And of course, the certifications come from countries that speak only English. They have been translated to Spanish, but so many different words on that vocabulary, we still use English. And if we're going to talk about being certified internationally, we talk about dealing with people internationally. Then we talk about all of this vocabulary. Do we have dialogues? Do we have conversations about these topics? Oh, of course. Every day in every organization. Every day. Then, of course, I included logistics because, of course, it's also very important. And one of the decisions or what made us as a school of engineering took the decision of including these two major ways that you could decide Well, it was because we listened. Being a school of quality, as the School of Industrial Engineering, then we listened when we made the changes. We listened to the industry. And their suggestions were in terms of quality management systems and in terms of logistics. So which one has more opportunities? Both. That's what we offered because our stakeholders, los grupos de interés from Universidad de la Sierra for industrial engineering are this. They said this is what we need. And that's why, yeah, you're gonna be given those companies your knowledge, which is cool, huh? So currently you're learning a lot of, in terms of logistics too. And there's a lot of vocabulary and conversations that need to happen. There is these containers, there is the ports. Actually, in terms of the pandemics, there have been a lot of delays talking about the ports management, because we suffer a lot because of pandemic. United States announced in the past few weeks, probably 3 weeks back, if it's not too, well, 3 weeks back, kind of, they announced that they had to open all of their ports because there is a big problem with delays. So if you were watching the news, there was a lot of conversation going on in terms of politics about logistics, because we need to keep going as a world. And yes, the ports were having a lot of problems. And it was not just because we wanted to create those problems, it was because we couldn't work at full before because we were getting sick as humans. And we were losing a lot of people because of this pandemic. But thankfully, things are changing. It's going slow, but they are changing. And they're changing for the better. So this is just one of the examples that I'm talking right now. In terms of this, it's been very high, and it's been kind of on fire on the news. When I say it on fire on the news, it's because it's a very, very super important topic right now. And because the holidays are coming. The holidays are coming just around the corner. December is just around the corner next week. And so with December coming on, with the holidays coming on, there's a lot of buying and selling for everyone in the world. So in terms of logistics, in terms of this vocabulary, it's on fire right now. Just look at the news, I'm telling you. And of course, I'm gonna advise you, don't just look at the news from Televisa. Go and watch something else. You can find everything in YouTube. You can find CNN, you can find Fox News, BBC, and so on. And the ones in Mexico that are better will be Milenio and ADN 40. Those, look at the news. Find out what's going on. It's not just about books. Okay. So in terms of this, of course, there's a lot of vocabulary. It's super interesting. When you talk about the management of an airport, not just a port for the ocean, of course. But when you talk about how you manage the airport, man, there's a lot of logistics that needs to happen. Yes, a lot. Even nowadays, it needs to go back and be checked into documents at some warehouses. And the interesting in management is how they do it in these type of warehouses all around the world. All around the world. You remember that we talked before about, yes, buying stuff from Shein, for example. And we talk about Amazon. That's one of the biggest companies right now in the world, just because of pandemics. because we have to order everything online. And I heard that they were building a warehouse, a big warehouse in Hermosillo, and they were looking for people for that one. So probably when you are getting out from school, you could find very cool internship positions over there. I'm just saying. Personally speaking, I think that working for an airport will be pretty cool. But anywhere. You know what? Logistics became very, very important nowadays for any type of port, yes, but also for hospitals. Due to coronavirus, it became super important. I remember hearing some conversations over the news of the directors of hospitals and saying when the second wave started, and then when the third wave of coronavirus of COVID-19 started back again, they said like, oh, it complicated a lot of things because they have to prepare a different site in the hospital, and they have to manage it very, very carefully because they have to send people over there and not combine it with the rest of the hospital. And then we started having more different illnesses going back and to get treated, because last year, because since people were very afraid of this COVID, there were a lot of people who were pushing it after for other time. And so this year on 2021, there were a lot of people who were going back to checkups, and there were a lot of different illnesses that were accumulated because of those who didn't check up their health last year. And it was very complicated because they have the section for coronavirus. They had at sometimes in the points in between the waves, when there were less cases, they have that space. They were having like rooms, empty rooms, but they couldn't use them for other treatments because they had to keep them prepared for when the people getting COVID back again needed to use them. So that type of logistics was so complicated. I don't know if you watch it on the news. If not, go look for them, listen to them, because like I said, learn also a lot of what's going on today in the world. I know that you have learned a lot about how to calculate the space and the times. It has to be a lot with time and space. That's pretty cool. I recognize that. It's super interesting on how to calculate these things and how to manage those, of course. Any questions or thoughts on this?
No, Professor.
Okay, good. And like I said before, when we talk about maintenance, we should be talking about predictive and preventive maintenance, because that basically reduces the amount of money that we spend. And I believe that I talk a lot about maintenance when we started this class, so I don't need to keep on doing that. I just added some more pictures with it. I decided to include these pictures. These are not from the visits that we had before. This is for different mines in the world. I included them because if you ever go and work for a mine, this is what you're going to see and you're going to be responsible for. Basic vocabulary here. This is basic vocabulary for also for those companies or organizations that are that produce products in terms of food products. They do have conveyors also. What you're seeing here, over here in the middle of this, it's conveyors. You're also, no, there is no conveyor here. What are conveyors? Las bandas transportadoras. So you're gonna have a lot of conversation about that. Heavy machinery, the big, super big trucks. What do we have here? Fluids, checking for fluids. Over here, I believe that this has to be a flotation equipment, some equipment for flotation. And probably what we're seeing here is something similar, but the process might be different. Just about the process different there. You have to check over here everything that is related to, or you're gonna be talking in terms of engines, which are motors, motores, engines, power, and everything that is related to that, to the power, which will be to talk about horsepower and watts, BTU. You're gonna be talking about fluids, the fluxes. You have to go back and measure fluxes, understand back again those. Of course, you're gonna talk about temperatures, pressure differences, and so on. And so, and you're gonna say like, hey, but that's not exactly a work or a job for an industrial engineer. You're an engineer. You can fit in every type of organization, in every type of company. And you're gonna think like, oh, since you are an industrial engineer, the only job that you can do on a mine is about health and safety. And no, again, because you are an engineer, you have the basics to even go and work for the process, the transformation process. Yeah, it might be harder for you as an industrial engineer because this is mainly a job for chemical engineers, but there is a lot of industrial engineers doing some work on those processes in a mine. And there could be a lot of industrial engineers for planning in a mine, for the control room. Like I said, those classes that you're taking right now with Professor Jasmine, which are operations investigation or operations research 1 and 2, something like that, right? They're called something like that. Those things that you're applying a lot of calculations, yes, you can be using all of those in a mine. So like I'm telling you right now, is an industrial engineer is not just for manufacturing, and you already know that. So you can fit everywhere. And that's why I also mentioned hospitals, because there's a lot of areas where you can go and work in a hospital. A lot of areas. And the management, of course, which is in offices, but you can work in maintenance and you can work in health and safety, at least those 3 big areas in a hospital you can work at. I'm just telling you because your world is super big. When you think about industrial engineers, you only think about manufacturing, but it's much more than that. But I also have to include manufacturing because manufacturing is super interesting, and it's any type of materials, and it's about producing every type of product, which makes it more interesting, even more interesting. Nowadays, like the last decade, there's been a lot of thoughts about the aerospace industry. And here in our Sonoran state, there's a lot of manufacturing companies that produce products for the aerospace industry. For airplanes, yes. So there's a lot of work over there. And it's beautiful, actually. It's amazing how many products can be done into those companies. Right now, I don't know if Luis Roman came back. He said that he had to go for something, I think. Luis Roman, are you back? No, he's not. I was taking a look at the roast and he's not there. Design. In terms of design, there's a lot of terminology. And of course, it has to have a lot of conversations and a lot of vocabulary that is going to be used in English. And just because, and that's why I decided to include these two pictures, the ones in the right. The one in the right side, on the bottom right side, that one is including the use of computer-aided design program, the CAD program, computer-aided design. You have already learned two different computer-aided design programs. One is SolidWorks and the other one is AutoCAD. Those are super important, and those are very good tools that you as an industrial engineer has. You have these very good tools. If you don't remember, that's another advice. I'm advising you right now. Go back, use your break, your vacations wisely. Study a little more about this because it's gonna be so helpful for you next year. It has to be. And so you need to refresh your mind. I know that you learned very good, but if you haven't keeping practicing, your brain tends to forget. So you need to go back and study. That's why I'm saying keep yourself busy. Use your time wisely. Yeah, it's about time to rest for Christmas time, but it's also about time to consider learning something else or going back and relearn what you already know, because you're going to be using this for your professional life. Design. This is about an engine. Every machine has an engine. This is particularly for automotive engines, but there's a lot of different types of engines in this world. So there's a lot of work for design, not just about speaking of engines, but you can design any machine, any new product, whatever is in your mind. You have the tools already as an industrial engineer to work in design. And the other last name that you have as an industrial engineer, which is the first one, it's productivity and quality. Remember that one? So in terms of productivity, of course that you're going to be using a lot of terminology in your conversations. You're using it now when you are a student, but you're going to use it too much when you are in the real world. Because you need to either maintain your productivity or, which is more important, increase the productivity. And you already know that productivity is related to what the people does and in general, how you get the products out into the world. So it has several different meanings, but yeah, it's mainly about that. Super important. And so now that we have come to the end of the slide, recommending these few pages. The UABAN, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly because that's from, actually it's not Spanish or English. It's a web in English, but I think that it's Turkish. Yeah, it might be something like that. But I found it super nice web page. And so I thought about recommending it. Business English Dialogues. It has a lot of examples. And some of them have a series of exercises that you can practice with. So that's one of the recommendations. I'm going to show them to you after I finish this one. This is the last slide. The TEFL Tastic is another web page, and they give us examples, really cool examples for engineers actually. And there's also this web page, ESL Right Now, for engineers. And there's also, it's in Spanish, the web page, but it has really nice and cute exercises for at least for dialogues and for conversations. And the examples are given as some daily life, some working life, which I found it really nice. And so this is called the cursoingles.com. It's online. Business English Dialogue, that was the section that we are visiting. And so I already opened them up so we can start seeing them. So I'm gonna start showing them. I have one, yes, this is. I have them open up on my Internet Explorer. I'm using Google Chrome, but it works in any Explorer. So right now we're taking a look at the one that is in Spanish, cursoingles.com. And as you can see, it comes from a mixture of what is taught in the States and what is taught in England. So I'm pointing it all the way through the part that is for business English dialogues. But you can go ahead and visit that webpage. It's really cool. Like I'm advising it to you. And why I wanted to open it, this one, is because you can listen it. You can listen to it. It says escuchar esta lección, which means to listen to this lesson. If you don't understand Spanish, just saying. And you can listen to the whole lesson if you click here. I have to go back. Or you can go and listen to each one. I don't know, probably you didn't listen to anything because I didn't share let me see, share sound. I'm gonna click on share sound and then you're gonna listen to it. Or you can just go and click one by one.
Hi, Anne. How are you? Hi, Anne.
Yes, I'll prefer that one when you click one by one, but because if you click on listen to the whole lesson, then you listen to also the reader. And so it's not like that fun, but because he's gonna keep saying Francisco and Francisco and, but this is a dialogue about some clients. And so I believe that Anne is Anne the one that was traveling? One of them is traveling, and then one of and she is meeting with a client, and then the dialogue, the conversation goes on about what happened on that trip or what's going on that trip. So I want you to listen to the lesson, and I want you to get familiarized with this. And so if you get interested on this one, I strongly advise you to keep studying it. That's why I'm sharing all of these references with you. I keep on looking for them for classes, but I always include the references either in the actual slide on the PowerPoint or at the end. So many times I include it in any different slide when I'm using a different some different sources, but sometimes I just do what I did today, which is to list them at the end of it. So with that said, I want you to just pay attention to it. Again, we are gonna listen to this lesson, which is about business English dialogue. It's from cursoingles.com. So we're gonna start. If you cannot hear, let me know, and then I can go back and share the sound again.
Hi, Anne. How are you?
Oh,
Anne.
Wait. I have to go back.
Very well, Francisco.
How I clicked, and I had to stop it and go back because we need to listen to the main idea first before the dialogue even starts. Sorry.
Francisco lives in Madrid and he sells Spanish wines to clients in the rest of Europe. One of his best clients is Anne Smith. She lives in London and she runs a wine distributor in the United Kingdom. Anne is planning a business trip to Madrid to meet with Francisco and visit a couple wineries to try out some new wines. Here is their telephone conversation regarding Anne's trip. Francisco. Hi, Anne. How are you? Anne. Very well, Francisco. How are you doing? Francisco. Fine, thanks. So, for what day have you booked your flight? Anne. My flight leaves London on the 14th of November at 9 a.m. I arrive in Madrid at noon. Shall I take a taxi to your office? Francisco. Yes, that sounds great. I would offer to pick you up, but I have another meeting that morning. Anne. Oh, that's no problem. I don't mind taking a taxi. Francisco. Where are you staying? Anne. I've booked a room at the Sol Plaza Hotel. Francisco. Fantastic, that's a nice hotel and it's close to my office. There is a winery I would like to take you to on the 15th. There are a few very nice red wines I'd like you to try there. Anne. That sounds great. What is the name of the winery? Francisco. Viñas de la Sierra. Anne. Oh, yes. I think you have mentioned it to me before. Francisco. Then on the morning of the 16th, I have an appointment with the enologist at Bodegas Summon. I'd like you to come to that meeting too. What time do you fly out on the 16th? Anne. My flight back to London is at 3 p.m. Francisco. Okay, great. The meeting is at 10 a.m. so that should work out well. Anne. Yes, that sounds great. Francisco. So, why don't you write me an email or a text message when you have landed in Madrid? Anne. Yes, okay, I'll do that. Francisco. Have a good trip over. Anne. Thank you. See you in about 2 weeks' time. Francisco. Bye-bye.
Okay, nice. Did you understand the dialogue? And it's to the phone. Speaking of the phone, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. There are some exercises that this webpage suggests, and they're cool. So again, like I'm saying, it's a suggestion for you to go and explore these different places and sources that you can find good information. There are also another pages. The first one that I recommended, the one that I think is Turkish. This one, the Yeon Van. Like I said, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I really don't know the name of it, but then everything is in English, so don't worry about it. And it's going to, that link that I gave you, it's gonna take you to business English, which is professional English. It's basically about dialogues. To keep practicing dialogues, you can partner with another person, one of your classmates, and practice all of these ones. For example, there is, again, another example for telephone English. There is about improving brand image. There's 4 pages of them. There's a lot of dialogues that you can use and practice. The one for telephone, if I go here, I already went there. It has like 5 different examples, I believe, from page 2 to page 6, and then it has suggestions so you can practice to role play one of the colors, and the second time to do the role play for for the other color. So it's about repeating and practicing. and so on. The page 3rd, it gives you about the same exercise. When I said the same exercise, is like you can role play one color or the other, and so on. More examples. The other web page is the TFL-tastic, Technical English for Engineers and Games. It has worksheets. I already selected for, I think that one for English for engineers. And there is examples here that we can use. I'm just saying. The other, oh, I was looking through the examples over here, but I'm not gonna show them to you right now. I'm just saying, because there's not much time left for today's class. But what is left for this week? You have a simple, but yet it takes time. There is an exercise that you've been doing for this week that is from a book. So if you haven't started, just go ahead and start it and finish it. And there's also the need for you to find a partner for your interview, because you are going to have a conversation recorded 3 to 5 minutes. So you need to plan ahead for your dialogues. If you can do it as spontaneously, that's fine, that's perfect. But if you cannot, write it down and practice it before recording it. And if you record it, and if you cannot understand what it says, go ahead and record it again. So it's going to take probably an hour of your time, or 2 or 3, depending on which level of English are you, and depending on how deep you want to have your conversation with your partner. So that's going to take some time. I'm going to be back at school tomorrow, so I'm hoping that if you have any questions, especially about that homework for next week, you can ask me. And so we can work on those for next week. Next week, next Tuesday, yes, we're meeting in the classroom and we're going to be solving some exercises. We finished with the literature review. I'm just going to call it with quotation marks. In terms of defining the terms and following the structure from the descriptive letter that we have for this class, but we haven't finished completely. So what we're going to do in next week, the 2 days for the class, is following some exercises for conversation. From what we can do. In terms of that, we cannot go too close, but we can use the space that we have. I'm going to give you some exercises and we're going to practice them, and probably we're going to distribute ourselves in the 2 classrooms and in the hallway so we can have more space when we are doing the exercises, right? Yes, any questions? Okay.
No questions.
So you just want to go back and have another party? What are we having today for food? What's gonna be lunch?
We don't know yet.
So there's no plan today.
There's
Okay.
no plans today.
Okay, good. Well, improvising is always good. Most of the time, something good happens from improvising. Yes, that's good. So I'm glad to see you guys, and I'm super happy because I'm healthy. So I'll see you tomorrow. Not in class, but if we see each other on the hallway or something, let's just say hi to each other. And with that said, I'm gonna ask you to leave over there through the chat, leave your attendance. Just leave a phrase. If you want to say present, that's fine. If you want to say hello again, as long as I have your names, and then I can take the attendance, collect the attendance from there, that's fine. So please, before you leave, leave something through the chat room and to collect your attendance. Good, thank you, Anael, Gijon, and Fontes. Chavez and Fontes. Chavez, I didn't hear your voice. I don't know if the girls are saying that you were there or not. But
I am here.
okay, good. So I'm gonna start recording and I'm just gonna wait for you to finish with the attendance.